Strong bodies,
kind hearts,
unstoppable minds.
You're listening to Strong Girls Pod,
where strong women share their stories
to inspire strong girls.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Strong Girls Pod. This is a project that I'm so excited to share with you. I'm your host, Charlie Ekstrom. I'll be with you guys for the foreseeable future. I am so excited to go on this journey with you guys and have some really inspiring conversations with some pretty incredible women throughout the next couple of seasons with you. But today is for our welcome episode, and I am here with founder of Strong Girls United, the nonprofit that I am so proud to work for and so proud to be a piece of with this podcast. I'm here with Lani Silversides. Lani, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited about this project and the podcast, and thanks for having me on for the first one here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness. Having this welcome episode for every listener listening, this has been kind of this little project that Lani and I have been talking about for years now. And I am so excited that we get the chance to actually produce it, that we actually get to make it, that we actually get to share it with everybody, because there's some incredible stories that we're going to share over the next couple of seasons. And starting it out with giving the core of why we're doing it, I think is the best way to start.
Absolutely. Yeah. Excited to introduce Strong Girls United to the whole community.
Oh, yeah. So let's get into it. Let's talk about Strong Girls United. I've given it a preface. We are a nonprofit, but I think that beyond there, you're probably going to give us the best version, because it is your baby, of what is Strong Girls United? How has it come to be? We could probably talk about this for days, but let's go into it.
Yeah, that sounds great. So the official mission statement right now is empowering girls through sports, mentorship, and mental health programming. But it's really evolved, and we're still young. So it was an official nonprofit as of August of 2019. But let me just give you a little backstory of where it started. So I was a former Division I basketball player. As soon as I graduated from college, I started teaching and coaching at independent boarding school in Massachusetts. And when I was working there, you're in the dorms, you're a teacher, you're sort of in local parentis, that's like a parent to some of these kids, the teenagers that are living in the dorms. And then I was coaching 3 seasons as well, and started out of college as a varsity head coach for the basketball team. Soon after having children, I have 2 girls. And when my now 8th grader was entering kindergarten, I just started to realize that there were still things happening that I felt like happened when I was young, when I was a young girl. And so the quickest example I give is, when you go to daycare, when I was going to daycare, you'd see the boys and girls playing around outside on the play structures. And then all of a sudden, starting kindergarten, if I were to drive by at recess, there would be the boys on the basketball court, the boys on the fields. And I'm like, where are the girls? Why are the girls not participating in this? And started to ask some questions and started to hear stories of young elementary school girls saying, oh yeah, the boys said that we aren't allowed to play football. Oh yeah, I was told that I couldn't do this. And I was a little bit like, how is this still happening? This was like 2015. And so I started these after school programs at the local elementary school and I called them Strong Girls. And it was really an effort to expose girls to multiple sports each week, because on the flip side, working with high school elite varsity athletes, I also was seeing that there was a lot more sport specialization that they had, a lot more burnout. And really, sport was just such a huge part of my growing up and playing all the sports and getting exposed to lots of different things. And so I started this Strong Girls program as an after-school program with a different sport each week. What I simultaneously was going through is taking sports psychology classes at Boston University, some graduate level classes. I had a master's in teaching, but really wanted to dig into the sports psych to become a better coach. And within the first 20 minutes of my class, my mind was blown. Like, how did I not have this resource when I was a college athlete? We didn't have mental skills coaches or mental performance coaches or sports psychologists. We didn't have that. And I feel like my experience could have been changed just a little different. I had a really good career, but I wonder, like, maybe I wouldn't have been burned out. Maybe I would have kept playing at the next level. What would that, just the struggles of college athletics, what would it have been if I had some of these tools? So I started creating programs for the high school seniors that I was working with, boys and girls, different sports, created some sports psych programs to fill their toolbox before they go on to college, to try to give some of these tools that I felt like we really should be teaching to these high school athletes. While I'm doing that with the high school athletes, I have these strong girls programs going with just sort of, different sports each week. And then it was like, just like a light bulb went off of like, why wait until they're 18 years old before we give the program, but give them access to these tools? Why wait? I was in my, late 20s and early 30s when I first learned some of these tools to help our performance and help our well-being. So I combined the two and said, I wonder what will happen if we get some of these tools to these young girls starting at 5. The same lessons that I was doing with the high school athletes, I started to adapt for elementary school girls. And my thought process as well is, can we combat the dropout rate of girls in sports? At the time, it was 6 times greater than boys by the time they were 13 years old. Now it's twice as much. So there's still a gap there. But beyond just exposure to multiple sports, I thought, can we give them exposure to multiple sports and give them also that confidence, the resilience, the gratitude, the growth mindset, all of these mental skills, talking about body language and self-talk, and what can we build that alongside building those, the sport bodies, and, this is where we're going to get to the strong bodies and the kind hearts, unstoppable minds. We'll get to talking about that, but can we support them in their athletic journey, being part of a team, and all that can bring, while intentionally also introducing these mental skills that everyone at all ages could benefit from. So that's where Strong Girls United really came from. It was these strong girls after school classes. And then I started getting interest from college athletes that I had coached in high school saying, I love this. How can we help? How can I help? So that's where we started the model of the university, programs and getting university athletes involved. And official nonprofit status came in 2019. Lots of big things happened between then, but I'll stop there for now in terms of just, that's like the really, like you said, the baby, like that's where it really started, was trying to combat dropout rate, trying to support girls and knowing that they belong in sports, and right down to at recess, right? If there's 2 hoops and you and your friends want to hoop, being able to like say, yeah, I can play basketball too. And then, working on the mental skills as part of it, just trying to get those tools to kids as young as possible and see if it can make a difference for them.
I love it. And I love hearing the story every single time that we talk about it. And that's a huge reason of why I've come on and worked for this organization, because I grew up in a pretty sports oriented community, so I feel pretty lucky that I had a decent amount of opportunities, but I can't necessarily say that I went out to the soccer field or I went to the basketball courts and played sports growing up when I was at school. I definitely was one of the more athletic kids. I think that a huge piece of it now that we talk about through mentorship, through just kind of the growth of the organization, is really looking to spread like the confidence aspect that says like, no, I want to play too. And I love sports. I want to go out and do it as much as I can. That added sense of confidence and that added desire to compete at like in any form of athletic competition, I think has become so important and like so vital to kind of the standing of Strong Girls United and what we stand for.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. And I know that you started kicking us off with the strong bodies, kind hearts, unstoppable minds. It's my favorite saying of like these 3 pillars of Strong Girls United. Of our motto is strong bodies, kind hearts, unstoppable minds. And for me, it means a lot. Like, I think for listeners coming in, my background is in the sport of beach volleyball. I'm born and raised in Southern California. I played beach volleyball for 5 years at Stanford University, went through a decent chunk of adversity growing up, and definitely had my highs and lows at Stanford as well. But I have a lot of pride in the fact that I was able to battle through some more adverse moments and ended up leaving my career as the winningest player at Stanford University. Also the all-time losingest player, and I take that with pride too. Of I was able to really set a foreground for a lot of the girls to come through our program and women to build this program up. But looking at the strong bodies, kind hearts, unstoppable minds mindset, and the pillars of Strong Girls United, sport became so much more to me. It became so much more than just a competition. And it always was. Like, it was such a vital aspect of my life. But looking beyond the competitive aspect of sport and how I could keep my heart kind, how my mind was like flowing, how I was able to work on sport or able to bring sport into my life beyond the actual competition aspect is kind of what I've been able to connect with as an adult athlete now. When I came into the org at 20 or 19 versus if I would have come in at 5 years old, that probably would have helped promote a little bit more athletic or of the athlete side of it. But I think that like there becomes a lot of value in these kind of pillared systems. And I would love, like, maybe we just can go in of like the reasoning, the rationale behind this motto, and what kind of we hope that everybody takes from it.
Yeah, that's awesome. For some reason, I like things in threes, like, learn, live, lead is, one of the other, mantras or mottos that I use in terms of how I think about educating and others. But so I like things in threes. And I really felt like there's three parts to this. It's not just a youth sport program. And I really wanted to create something different than just a youth sport program. And so the three pieces that I feel are most important that we build are kind of within that motto. And so strong bodies comes from, giving those just fitness and, being active and being part of, a team and getting exposure to sport and seeing what interests you and what you like and trying new things, that all kind of falls under that strong bodies. That's like the sport and physical activity component to it. And then the kind hearts come. So my background, once I started really exploring and digging deep into the sports psych, once my mind was open to it, I also went into positive psychology and took a sabbatical and went to Australia, started digging deep into positive education, which is where we take the principles of positive psychology and embed it into schools, and did some training at a school that is a positive education school out in Australia, and just really was learning from them. I really wanted something different. And so and I love all of youth sport also, but this strong bodies has the sport component. The kind hearts to me is kind of the positive psychology component. It's the social connection. We know so much research around the importance of humans being connected to others. That social connection is hardwired in our brains, and that's where the gratitude comes from. That's where thinking about, some of the just being part of a team and what it feels like to be part of a team and how to be good teammates. That's all part of that sort of pillar within our motto. And then the unstoppable minds, that is the mental skills. That's the sports psychology kind of stuff. That's the mindfulness. That's the confidence, the empowerment, the growth mindset, those skills that I think about like muscles that anybody can grow and build on, but you have to do it with intention and work on it. Just like if I'm working on my free throws, I can't expect to have a really solid free throw percentage if I never practice it. And the same is true for these mental skills that we go through with young girls or college athletes or adults, right? If it's gratitude, it's not like oh, today we practiced gratitude once, so now I'm good for life, right? It's like, how do we build these habits? And to me, infusing some of these intentional skills into sport is a beautiful place to do that, to build that resilience. I've heard a lot that sport builds character, sport does this, sport does that. So taking those skills and thinking about them like muscles we can grow and then infusing it into sport, to me, it's like sport becomes the playground to build all of these things that are going to help people in life outside of sport as well, right? We're not just exercising it to become to win or to become a champion. You're like working on this stuff to just help in life in general. And that's what I think sport can do. So those three pillars kind of infuse that sport, that social connection, and then that mental skills as well.
I love it. I think, yeah, I mean, I don't even know how to describe the level of importance that I find that to be. And I think it's so cool. I love the idea of like, this is all like, you start out with it as the playground, and these are kind of like the ways that you build up on the playground.
Yeah.
Because it honestly, it simplifies such a deeper concept. And I think like you look at it from the scope of, we're working with girls and young women ages really like 5 to 18, and then beyond we have mentors and we have coaches and we have people that we work with that are ages 18 and beyond as well. And so we've got these two different sectors, but being able to have like skills and mindset activities and things that work for our members that are 5 years old and that also work for our 25-year-olds like mentors, I
Yeah.
think is such a unique piece to look at it. Like I remember talking, and we'll definitely get into the mentorship program and the power of mentorship and all of it, of what we've been the main piece of Strong Girls the last several years. But I think that's something that I've talked to with working from the mentor side and like the mentorship aspect of it, is that speaking with other girls who have like helped run programs or helped work in programs, is that we find the lessons and we find the work to be just as important for us as it
Yeah.
is for the girls that we're teaching. And again, like that goes back to the whole idea that like this never stops. Like you have to train these muscles, you have to train these mindset skills. Some of the people who are teaching these mindset skills didn't necessarily learn them at a young age, but they're learning to fine tune them, or they're learning to hone them in, they're learning to use them as they're starting to teach them. And then it just becomes this greater movement in women's sports, women's everything, which is such a growing industry, such a growing world right now, and makes it so
Definitely.
much more important, because these strong women that are teaching these classes or teaching these lessons are now having the mindset skills or having the practices, having them like activities ready for them to be able to carry it on into their extending careers. Because a lot of women's sports and women's athletes are extending their careers as athletes
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, and you just made me think too. My first career was teaching math, and how I taught math was not for me to stand up and lecture and show everyone how to do it. It was, here's a little bit of information, a little tool I'm going to give you, and now you go do it. And I want you all teaching each other, because when you teach it, then it really helps reinforce it. So that is exactly the model that I think you're right has made Strong Girls unique, is that it is not just me coaching these classes anymore. That's how it started, was me creating and coaching Strong Girls. But now we are introducing the power of female role models to these girls. So 77% of female leaders reported a lack of female role models as the reason why they dropped out of sport or limiting sport experience. And so we know that female role models matters in this space. And you're right, this is an amazing time for women's sports, and it's getting girls and boys alike excited, right? But when we are thinking about how what I think about is I want to impact the mentors and the people coaching just as much as the young kids, because it mattered to me for me learning these skills, even in my late 20s, early 30s. And I can get into some of the big why that it impacted me in a little bit. But these are skills that can go across ages, across all people. And so for us to be able to almost take that math teacher model that I had, which is let me give you all the tools. And then I want you to teach someone else about this, because when you, Charlie, are teaching your mentee about gratitude or growth mindset or overcoming failure or dealing with disappointment or getting cut from a team, you are helping to reinforce the very skills that are helpful for you too. So that is where this model of utilizing and there's just the outreach has been incredible. We've had over 500 since 2019, over 500 college female athletes be involved in some way within our organization, which means they are coaching or mentoring or running an event or running a program in their community. So it is, let's get those tools to these college athletes. They are inspiring role models for these young girls, which might help them get involved and stay in sport. And the added benefit of having the athletes teach these skills that can help ground them in ways that are just, in some ways, I think, invaluable when it can feel so intense and so significant at the level that college athletes are playing at, and the sort of bar and the expectations on them. And then when you start teaching and seeing things through these young girls' eyes, it can just help reinforce the skills for yourself. So you're right. That's exactly that unique model. And that Strong Girls for Life is really trying to say, hey, these are things that we all need to work on. Like I said before, you're not going to exercise that gratitude muscle once when you learn about it, and then you're good for life. For you to have consistent conversations with young girls through coaching or mentoring, it just helps reinforce that with everyone's life.
Yeah, and beyond just that reinforcement, this has not just become like this, like you were saying, it's not a small movement anymore. We've had over 500 student athletes come through these programs, myself included. That's how we originally became connected. Is I joined on starting pre us having a mentorship program at all with Strong Girls United. I came on as a coach and empowerment officer, helping run summer clinics during COVID with you. And we ran them virtually, and almost the virtual movement allowed Strong Girls United to become a much more national movement than we were ever anticipating it becoming. And I think it's so cool because, again, we're not this small little mentorship program anymore. We've impacted over 500 female student athletes. We've impacted thousands of young girls. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thousands now of young girls that have come through mentorship programs, that have come through Strong Girls United programs, spanning throughout the years now. And we're spanning across the nation. I'm sitting here in sunny Southern California. You're sitting in slightly less sunny Maine at the moment.
Yep.
And I think that there's such a valuable piece to this of it's become this isn't just a movement that happens in one place. This is a movement that's happening at all times, that's spanning everywhere at this point. We have members spanning from the tips of Washington to the base of Florida, from Maine to San Diego, where I'm from originally, no longer live now. But I think that there's such an important element of this movement is important and spans so much more than just a couple people, and it's impacted so much more. Like we said, we've got thousands of young girls, we've got over 500 collegiate student athletes, but those 500 collegiate student athletes have brought this to their teams. I had a total, I think, of 3 teammates who have been a part of Strong Girls United throughout the years, along with myself. And my entire team, which was a 23-person roster, knew about Strong Girls United, had some sort of engagement with it, had done some sort of mental skills practice because of the fact that we brought it to there. So this kind of usurps just the people who are participating, bringing these mindset skills, bringing these active learning through teaching methods becomes so much greater than just the people who are directly here, because their outreach continues to expand. So it's pretty cool. And it's pretty cool to see the growth. I mean, I've taken on the role of running the mentorship program now, and I was just a little 19-year-old mentor when this program first started. And for our listeners, our mentorship program is called FAM. You're joining the family when you become a part of it, and it's female athlete mentorship, where college and professional athletes are paired one-on-one with a mentee ranging K through middle school. And sometimes those mentorships repeat over the years. Sometimes it's a one-year program. It really depends on the family, on the mentor, on just overall like what that looks like on a day-to-day for them. But it's been a pretty impactful program for just about everybody who's gone through it. And I'm sitting here, I'm in year 4 with my mentee. I think we might be the longest lasting mentorship pair at this point. And I've learned so much and grown so much with my mentee, Julia, and we've actually never even met in person. Like, we would have never been established prior to having this kind of virtual one-on-one mentorship. And I've gotten to see her grow up, and I've gotten to actually grow up a little bit myself through that, go back to the math class mentality of through active teaching. There are aspects of myself that I think that I've learned to heal and grow while I help Julia to overcome some adversity that she's going through, or to get her engaged further in sport. I mean, she's a lot more confident in what she's doing now. And there's also an element of like, she's got an elevated awareness to what she's doing, which I think comes with the fact that we've done these practices for 3+ years now, entering into year 4. And it's become such an awesome conversation, because again, like, having kind of that active teaching and active learning through asking questions, through engaging, through the rest of the tiers there, like, it becomes such a greater relationship. So I think that FAM has become something that's I honestly think FAM is bigger than we might have anticipated it now. Like, I think we have 80 mentors this year, and I was like, whoa, that is crazy that we've got 80 matchups across the country, and in varying, like, mentees and mentors are sprinkled across the nation. And it's pretty cool. Pretty cool to be a part of.
Yeah. And that awareness that you just mentioned that Julia and yourself have built, that's like foundational. If I'm working with college teams, or I'm working one-on-one as like mental performance coach, that's where I usually start. It's like, we've got to build awareness for what do we need, right? And so that's just really cool that you can see that growth over time. Again, the muscles that you both are building by practicing this stuff get stronger. And when it's stronger, you know how to use it quicker. And that's a really cool story. And it's definitely just a big part of sort of the lessons, the mindset lessons that are kind of interspersed in everything that we do. And I thought it might be good too to share, if there's college athletes that are listening, that are like, oh, this is great, I want to get involved somehow. We also have these Strong Girls U programs, which are like campus, and you could become a campus ambassador basically for your university. And that means putting on an event maybe around, National Girls and Women in Sport Day, or a celebration of girls in sport, or just because we do like a Be My Galentine event in February, anniversary of Title IX. There's all kinds of, I always say there's never a time that you can't come up with a reason to celebrate girls and women in sport. And so we help athletes run events where kids come to their campus, and or get the athletes out into the community doing a program like that original program that I started. Of course, the curriculum has adapted over time, but that original sort of after school, once a week for 1 hour, getting athletes into the community and working with young girls on the strong, sports, on the team building, and then on the mental skills is something that we also help people do. So that, there's different ways that people can get involved, and you don't have to be a college athlete, right? As well, it can be anyone can really start these programs locally and get involved if they would like.
I love it. And Yeah, like please, please. We love being able to spread the wealth and to spread the love and to spread like this unstoppable nature that we're looking to continue to grow. And I think like looking at it too, like even having these conversations that everybody's going to be able to hear some pretty cool from some pretty cool people over the next several months and over hopefully the next lots of years to come. Um, if we keep getting people to want to talk the way that we have been so far. But something that's come from this is like athletes and people who have retired in their careers or people who have moved on to new facets of life beyond athletics have come back to kind of their roots in that awareness, in that beginnings. And when we have these conversations, athletes are like, wow, this is something so cool. I even want to like look back at what we were talking about at the beginning when you were bringing up like the positive learning ideology, and something that we do with Strong Girls is our 3 good things lesson. And I want to kind of like go into the whole rationale behind the 3 good things like lesson in practice. And I would love you to describe that. And then I'll bring in how we've kind of shared with the podcast and kind of what people can expect from that aspect of some really, really cool elements to what's to come in the conversations that they'll be hearing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So gratitude, 3 good things was one of my favorite practices. As soon as I learned about it, I implemented it into my classroom when I was still teaching, implemented it into athletics, and then most definitely implemented it into my own life. So quick sidebar, I mentioned that I went to Australia and New Zealand and was on sabbatical with my family and was doing some more just like learning and going to, conferences and learning from others that are integrating some of this type of work like gratitude into what they're doing. When we returned from that trip, 4 days later, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. And so this is not, I'm 34. I was an athlete. Like to consider myself still an athlete sometimes. And, no family history, not, I don't hit any of the markers for what can sometimes cause. So it really came out of nowhere. Now, when I was diagnosed, my words on the phone. So I kind of had a feeling it was coming. It was just like one of those things, like when we were, towards the end of our trip, I scheduled an appointment. So full disclosure, felt a lump. So, this is obviously something for, women to, keep in mind and make sure that they're doing their checks. But then I also kind of just had a feeling that it wasn't benign, And so my first words to the doctor were, well, that is really inconvenient. And I said, I wasn't planning to spend the rest of my sabbatical dealing with this. Like, that's just, inconvenient. Now, of course, there are different emotions that are felt with a diagnosis like that. But my point, I suppose, is leading up to getting that phone call, I kind of knew, but I also knew that I was prepared and that I had just spent years building curriculum on mental skills training. And I did a book called Unstoppable. And I was working on this book. It was just picked up by a publisher. The Strong Girls Guide to Being was picked up by a publisher. That's the 8 to 12-year-old Strong Girls, kind of guided journal. And it's doing gratitude. It's doing the 3 good things. It's doing the body language and the confidence and all of these skills that I felt like anybody could use. And to me, I went into this experience being like, oh, I'm so lucky that I have just spent the last few years learning about this because I have the mental strength to deal with this. And wow, I can't even imagine if this were someone, I said to my husband, maybe I took this off of someone that didn't have the support, the team, honestly, like the experience in athletics, which definitely ties to having to go through treatments, and the mental strength that was built through learning. So very similarly, I was taking these lessons and putting them on paper and in books to teach and help other people. And by doing so, it reinforced it for me. So the very the biggest thing that I took with me was this gratitude and the three good things. And so we have a family, we did a family every night at dinner. We would talk about three good things from the day. It stems from this idea that our brain has a negativity bias. It is wired to see what's not going well, what's wrong, what's not good. And we don't have to work hard at identifying. It's like, I don't want to go to the 6 a.m. practice. It's cold outside. I wish it weren't raining. It's dark at 4. I don't like that. I'm hungry, whatever it is, right? Our brain is wired to notice what's not going well. And as soon as I started introducing these practices in the classroom and for our family and for myself, you just start to build, again, more awareness. So at first, you're kind of looking back on your day thinking, okay, what are my three good things from today? And then all of a sudden during the day, something will happen and you'll be like, ooh, that's going to be one of my good things from today. And now you've built that awareness to notice in the moment those good things. And the more we can do that and integrate that into our daily life is just noticing the good. There's going to be not good stuff too. There's going to be hard stuff. But even in the midst of the hard, we can find good, in my belief. And so going through treatments, as an example, we had the, family three good things, but I took one. I said each day I'm going to find one, I'm going to name, and I just started keeping track of what is one good thing from my day, even in those days that I was really sick and in lots of pain and just not feeling well, not really eating much. And so I remember one of my days that one of the good things was that I got outside for a little tiny walk with the dog, and the dog did not poop. And I was literally like, because I hate picking up dog poop. And so I literally in my head was like, ooh, this is going to be my good thing from today. So I'm not, all these other things are not going great. I don't feel good, but I was like, that's going to be one of my good things. And I kind of came in the house almost giddy to be like, this is going to be my good thing from today. Like the dog didn't poop. And it was just like such a silly thing. But my experience in that moment, I was like, realized that I had built that muscle, right? So going back to these are muscles, these tools are muscles that we grow. I had built that muscle over time, over the last couple of years, doing that every day so that when I really needed it most, that muscle was strong. And when I really needed it most was going through this cancer treatment. And what I came to realize, so this was 2018, 2019, and just, really started to think about is everyone is going to go through something at some point in their life that these tools can help everyone. Not that it might be during sport, it might be as a college athlete, it might be when you're young, it might be when you're in your 30s, it might be, and at some point everyone will go through something and has gone through something. And so it was that summer that I had just finished my radiation, like kind of like the fourth part of my treatment plan, that I was like, we need to make this a nonprofit. And I found some people that helped me to really form, like there's like the logistics of actually like forming this into a nonprofit. But that to me was the turning point of like, I had built these muscles, I had built these schools through teaching others that allowed me to take on a diagnosis like cancer and be like, I got this. Like literally, I'm like, when people would share, I wouldn't even say I have bad news to share it. I would just say I have news, right? It's like a little bit of a non-judgmental, that mindfulness approach to it, to just say, I have news. This is what's happening and I got this. So like, bring on your positivity. Like, I don't want you to, feel sad for me. I got this, right? And that mental strength that I had built as a muscle through trying to teach others was the turning point for me to say, hey, this needs to become a nonprofit so we can spread this throughout. Because sport for me sport can become the ability to learn this stuff. It was for me. And so if we can combine this sport and this mental skills and this simple three good things practice to help other people whether they are young, whether they are in their 20s, 30s, 60s, 70s, then maybe it is something that, like you have said, can really spread and support people. And like you have mentioned too, this is not about, my goal is not say we need to create Division I athletes. Like you and I are both Division I athletes, fortunate. had really solid career and wonderful accolades, and grateful for that. The goal is not to create Division I athletes out of everyone, right? We've talked a lot about human comes before athlete, right? And so how can we use athletics and sport to help us just as humans evolve? And that, to me, that sort of cancer example and experience really propelled us forward. So that is a long-winded answer to the three good things, but really how it formed, how I learned about it, how it started, how I started using it, and then when I really needed it, and it was that strong muscle that I had. That's really where it was like, okay, let's start doing this type of stuff with as many people as possible through this platform that we have, that I had already built through Strong Girls.
No, I like the long-winded answer. I think that was a huge piece of why we've chosen Three Good Things to be kind of like one of the highlights and one of the main focal points of Strong Girls Pod, is because of the fact that it has such a deep rooting in kind of everything. And I mean, from a simple side of it, you look at it and you say, no matter how good or bad your day has been, every single day you can find at least three good things that happen. Like when you are at the lowest of lows and the highest of highs, there are at least three things that you can probably shift into a positive mindset. And once you shift three things into a positive mindset, or write down or take note of what those three good things are, your day has changed. Like you could have the worst day, as bad as you could possibly imagine, and you find three good things and it makes the day a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily going to make the day the best day ever, but it's
Yeah.
going to take a little bit of the pressure valve off.
It's all about active, right? And it's like, not to
Exactly.
say that you're not going to also notice, like I said, the brain has a negativity bias. The goal is not like toxic positivity where you're only going to see positive. We know you're going to see the like hard, the what's not going well. It's just that the way many of our brains, at least, are wired, so we're going to see those. We want to be able to see and feel the hard and feel the sad and feel the difficult, and also be able to see those other components as well. And that's the part that takes work. Like we don't have to work on teaching our brain to see the negative. Like it's there, it's hardwired, it's in there. We have to do a little bit of work in order to teach our brain to start finding the good. And that's what I noticed was a difference with my classes too. Like we would have a board that when they walked in, they had to put a good thing down. And at first they're like, I haven't had a good thing yet. It's, 8:30 in the morning, like teenagers. And I'm like, think harder. And then it became like, the oatmeal was at the right temperature this morning, or just simple things. It is not like we won the lottery, we won the game, I got an A. It is like really trying to find and savor those smaller things and just notice and build our awareness of them throughout the day.
Absolutely. I mean, and again, going back to the idea of like, we're not expecting every single person that listens to this podcast to be a Division I athlete or have been one, or we're not looking for every single person that comes through a Strong Girls United program to do that. We are looking at the people more than what the outcome of what that person is going to be. Yeah. And that's kind of a piece of this three good things, is we're looking at three things in a day that have a positive outcome that can shift your outlook. Yep. And again, I am not immune to a negativity bias. There are plenty of things that I could look at in my days that could shift them into a bad mindset. But looking at it of finding those three little things, again, my coffee was the perfect temperature this morning. I didn't burn my tongue, and I put just the right amount of creamer in it to where it was my favorite flavor. And I just had a big smile, and it becomes something that's so simple and so simply ingrained. And I think going back to the very beginning of our conversation and the impact that Strong Girls United and all of this has had on me is that human over athlete focus that we have. I don't think that I'm looking at the 5-year-olds that we're coaching and thinking, oh, they're going to be in the WNBA one day. I think, oh my gosh, we're working to make this girl an incredible woman. And I think that a piece of this all has made sport, while sport is such a huge facet of my life, it's made it not the main facet anymore. It's an added bonus to who I am as a human, where like I'm a much more well-rounded individual than just as an athlete. So my identity has kind of shifted in this framework of I am Charlie, I am this, and an athlete on top of that. And it becomes an added bonus. And that's a whole piece of Strong Girls and of why we're kind of like doing this podcast in general too, is like we're having conversations with athletes, but the conversation is about so much more than just what they've done and what their accolades are. Like there are some pretty cool people that we're going to be hearing from. All of these women are incredible for so much more than just their athletic feats. I get goosebumps almost every conversation I have. And again, like a piece of why we're so excited to have this project is because of the fact that it's the human over the athlete. It's the athlete because of the human, not necessarily the other.
I love that. You gave me goosebumps. That's great.
I'm glad that I could do it back because we're going to be able to share this. And I hope that it gives the goosebumps that I get because of the fact that I swear everything is so inspiring to me. And again, becomes so much more in depth in life than just sport. Sport is an added bonus and it's an additive that is so important to our foundation. But our foundation focuses on the human. The sport is what helps the human, not necessarily the other.
And, sport becomes the avenue. It's like the playground to work on some of this stuff that you're going to need, even whether sport's around or not, right? And when you think about when you talk to athletes or even kids, it's like, what do you play? That's the question. What do you play? Well, okay, can we help remind like right up to the Olympic athletes and the college athletes and the high school, right? It starts from a base of playing, right? And so that play is fundamental to sport and it has the ability to infuse some of these other things. It can become the playground for working on some of this other stuff that helps, whether it's in the classroom or in jobs or, in relationships or, in life in general.
And again, like I just think that there's something so real and raw and inspiring about what we've got to share and what the athletes and the women who are coming on are sharing. So I really can't wait for everybody to be listening.
To listen to.
I mean, really, like everybody get ready because this is going to hit the world by storm, hopefully the way that we want it to. And there's just an incredible opportunity here and like to inspire the way that some people who haven't necessarily gotten the chance to inspire are going to.
That's right. And Charlie, there's a way for any age for people to submit their questions, right? And so that the conversations that you have, have some of those, whether it's through our social media, the Strong Girls Pod, or whether it's through the actual podcast interviews, there's a place, on our site, right? That we want to hear the voices from all ages and what questions they have. Is that right?
It is, yeah. You just set me up perfectly. It's a really fun thing that we're doing with Strong Girls Pod now is this conversation isn't just between me and between the athlete on screen with me and the woman on screen with me. It is a conversation that's had with people who want to be heard or who want their questions to be asked, who want to feel like they're a part of this conversation. If you had the chance to ask an All-American, to ask an Olympian, to ask these top tier athletes and top tier women any question. It could be something as simple as what's your pregame meal? And it could be something as complex of like, what do your bad days look like? Or how do you overcome something more serious? Or what does it look like battling through injury? Like there are some pretty serious questions. There are some pretty fun questions that we get to ask. And it's not just coming from me. And I don't want it to just come from me. And we don't want it to just come from me and from us. We want everybody listening to, if you have a question to be asked, go and take the time and put it on our survey. It's on our website. It's in our Instagram bio of ask these questions because we want them to be heard. And there's no limit to how many questions you want to ask, but it becomes a conversation that's had with everyone, not just with two people. All right, Lani, we are kicking off a tradition here too. You know it because this is a goofy little tradition that we decided that we thought would be fun to start with all the athletes. Pieces of Strong Girls like we were talking about with 3 good things, we have our athletes share their 3 good things from their sport that they play, or the 3 good things of being an athlete. But then we look back to the pillars of strong girls, of strong bodies, kind hearts, unstoppable minds. And like you said, Lani, good things come in threes, and good answers come in sets of 3 cute, fun questions. And we want to know, to start, and I guess we'll both answer this because people should probably know how I do it as well. And now that I'm on this journey with everybody, but to start, how do you keep your body strong, Lani?
Oh my goodness. I'd love to say, I work out 5 days a week and, go to the gym. I don't. So I volunteer coach. I've been, that teaching and coaching, one of the ways is honestly just getting engaged in play with my own kids. So I volunteer to coach kind of all the teams that they're on. I'm usually like, if you want some help, I'm here. So I like to stay active and play with them in that way. And then I also have started playing the sport of pickleball, and it is legit really fun, particularly for competitive, former athletes slash still want to be athlete. So pickleball has become my way of keeping my body strong in terms of, and it's kind of almost more like active, I just try to keep active. I'm active through coaching. I'm active through, teaching and doing strong girl stuff, and then staying active through pickleball.
I love it.
I want to make so many people laugh. My kids are like, it's for old people. I'm like, no, it is not. You haven't tried it yet.
No, I'm actually trying to get more into pickleball. So I think going into me for keeping my body strong, I guess I didn't preface this with everybody of, I did have a 5-year career at Stanford. I graduated in June of 2023, and I'm now playing professional beach volleyball. So there's a huge element to my life that is keeping my body strong at all times. But I'm going to say, like, for my favorite pieces of keeping my body strong, because while playing sport, like, your body has to be strong, your body also gets beat up. And my personal favorite way to keep my body strong is like getting in the gym and lifting weights. And it's so funny because now there's a movement of like strong bodies are beautiful, but there was a huge movement for a really long time that like women shouldn't be lifting heavy weights, or muscular women aren't what we want to see in society. And I have never been of that mindset. I've been like, I want to outlift everybody in here. Like, let's stack it on. Let's push me to my boundaries. There's a piece of like lifting weights that's like been very like soothing and calming for me. And I think of, because of the fact that there's no pressure on it for me. Like the whole thing is like, I'm using it as a catalyst to take me further in sport, but it calms me down. Oh, and it keeps my body strong and also really helps me reset my mind. And so I think that that's my favorite way to keep my body strong. Is it's like, it's so funny. It's like the cliche of like lifting weights, keep your body strong.
I know.
Yes, it keeps my body strong, but it's honestly like, it's become something that's like therapeutic to me almost, is like getting into the gym and going and having the routine. So that's how I keep my body strong.
I love it.
And now next up on our list is, how do you keep your heart kind?
Oh, I think we talked about like gratitude practice is definitely a big one for me still. I try to use I get to instead of I have to. So I get to, go, pick up the girls at the end of the day from school. I get to get on this podcast. I get to do this meeting because I'm doing things that I love. So gratitude practices, I would say, are probably the biggest way. And then I love, family and people, and doing things with that social connection piece that's part of Strong Girls, and being part of teams. So that volunteerism part of this, kind of what I do, and just being around people and part of teams also really helps. How about you?
I keep my heart kind. I was coming up with this. I think I have a bunch of answers because I feel like this is probably the most important one for me, is finding ways to keep my heart kind, and giving back to my communities around me has been like a huge aspect and element of that. But I'm going to actually shift my answer and say that how I keep my heart kind is by saying yes. And I've discovered that like kind of saying yes to little things with friends or with family or community has brought me a sense of like fulfillment and like warmth because of the fact that you don't necessarily know how many times the person who's asked you if you want to go do something with them or if you can help them with something. You don't know how many times they've asked, and you don't know how many times they've been told no. I've been told no so many times in my entire life, and I'm okay with that. Like, a no is a no. It doesn't really mean that much at the end of the day, but they can start to wear. And when you say yes, or when you get a yes, like it makes, like, for me, if I ask a question or if I need help and I get a yes back, or somebody says like, yeah, I'll drop what I'm doing and come and hang out with you, or yeah, let's go for a walk, or let's go get some ice cream. Like, I'm tired, but heck yeah, I'll go do that with you. It is awesome. And it makes you just, it like elevates a mood. And so what I know that comes from my internal side is when people say yes to me, it brings me so much joy. So I try to say yes to others as much as I can, whether that be help, whether that be hanging out, whether that be like really anything.
I love that because, Charlie, the other thing about that is, the research around kindness and actually, one of the single best ways to boost your own happiness is to do things for others, right? So that's really what both the volunteering that we both have talked about, that helps us feel good, and doing stuff for the community. And then the saying yes, that like, it's that feeling you get, and this is what I want to teach my girls, and then when I think of like all of the strong girls as well, right, is that those kind moments and words and actions actually really, it's like a boomerang. It comes back and feels so good. It's like that good feeling when you're giving someone a gift, and it's like, you're making them happy and you can't wait for them to open it, right? And so that you touched on, one of the themes that are certainly integrated into our programs too is just kindness in general being such a boost for mood and happiness and all of that thing. So I love your answer.
Thanks. Yeah, it's pretty special, and it's cool. It's a dual-sided warmth. It's a dual-sided like keeping your heart kind of like, just everybody wins in that moment. So it makes me happy, and that's all that I can ask for at the end of the day. Now, last up on our lovely little list of 3 things is, how do you keep your mind unstoppable?
So, I think this is one that really blends the other two as well. Like, they're not all in silos, right? Like, they all kind of work together. But I would say I really love to learn. So, reading new books, learning new things, trying new things, just trying to improve, whether it's at my pickleball game or whether it's public speaking or whether it's parenting. Just I really do like to improve and work at myself and whatever it is that I'm doing, right? And so I think that desire to learn and improve is just part of what kind of builds into that unstoppable mind, because there's a lot out there. There's a lot to learn from other people. And I just love, for me, I might read a whole book and then grab a couple things from it that I then can implement into, whether it's into a curriculum or into my life. And so I would say that's how I keep my mind unstoppable, alongside all those practices that we already talked about, right? Like the being active and physical activity, we know helps our mind. The kindness, the volunteering, the being part of teams, the gratitude practices, it's all kind of interconnected. But that's what my first instinct is just like that love of learning that really helps, I think, me. How about you?
I love it. I was always a pretty nerdy kid growing up. Like, I had my nose in a book whenever I wasn't playing volleyball. So I've always had this total like love for reading and for learning. I've gotten back in, now being out of college, I've kind of gotten really back into reading again, which makes me very happy, because there was an element in education that kind of disrupted my reading patterns, just because of the fact that I was so busy doing readings for classes that I didn't actually get to read for joy that much. And so now I've started reading for joy again, which makes me quite happy. And I think also on top of it, being I like to say that I'm a full-blown adult now, that I actually like live on my own. I'm not doing school, I'm working, all of it. I have started cooking. Every night I like to experiment with recipes. And so I think I've been keeping my mind unstoppable by like pushing my boundaries of cooking and testing new recipes. And it's been really fun, and I've made some pretty awesome food. So I've been keeping my mind unstoppable from cooking.
I love it. And there's like a common theme there with both of us in terms of, and I wonder if this will be the case with your other athletes, of that growth happens when we stretch ourselves, right? And that's part of what we're trying to teach with Strong Girls too, is that it is uncomfortable, right? When we are doing things that we don't, the uncertainty or the things that we don't know yet, right? But then being able to kind of stretch ourselves is where we actually get quite a bit of confidence from that. And I think something common that we both just said is there's that learning, there's that pushing, there's stretching ourselves. And what's interesting about it, which I didn't really think of until this moment, but that unstoppable feeling, that like confidence actually comes from there, right? It comes from some of that growth of just practicing pushing ourselves, and then knowing when it fails that you have the skills to like deal with it, right? And not beat yourself up over it, and then just try again, right? So that's cool, and I'm super excited to see and hear from some of these common themes that we might be able to pull out from all of the interviews that you're doing.
Oh yeah. I mean, again, I think everybody's going to be just love. I love that piece. I love the simplicity of the questions, and I love the varying complexity of the answers. I think that it's a very cool and interesting moment to hear where an athlete's brain goes on the instant. And I'm excited for everybody to hear. And I feel like this welcome episode has become something that's so much more than just a welcome, that just really gets to share kind of like our hearts and where we're coming from with this. And we hope to inspire just as much as we hope that the others inspire. And I'm so excited.
Yeah, thank you for having me first on, and love the chance to share the story of where we're at. And I love how you put it, for us to be able to share our hearts and when I came up with sort of what I think about my purpose, in like a, couple of words, it's been to impact many, one person at a time. And I think we can take that with the Strong Girls Pod too. There's the opportunity for many, but going one at a time to impact and inspire is just really fulfilling for us, as well as, like we've talked about, as well as we hope to impact the people listening, or the young girls in our programs, or the young women in our programs. Just grateful for time and for the people listening, and looking forward to that, impacting many, one person at a time.
I love it. Well, I'm so grateful that you came on and were able to share today and help me welcome everybody to our little project that we've got here. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you, Lani. And for everybody listening, welcome on this journey. Thank you so much for listening. And I can't wait to have these conversations for you all to share and continue to spread good and inspire many from the first listen. So thank you, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join us today on Strong Girls Pod. In the spirit of growing community and inspiring strong girls and women everywhere, please subscribe, rate, and leave a comment about our podcast. Tell your friends, family, really everyone to listen in and enjoy. This podcast is sponsored by Strong Girls United, a nonprofit with a mission to empower girls to be strong, confident, and resilient through sports mentorship and mental health programming. Visit sgunitedfoundation.org to learn more on how you can get involved today.